Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner studio, and with me today are two fine gentlemen from the American Legion. It's got a long name. Is it Giles B. Cook Post 53? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Pretty close, huh?
Yeah, some posts have a namesake, some posts don't. Our post happens to have a namesake.
So, I remember it because you all sponsor the community band, and they always announce it at all the concerts and everything. So
right.
I remember. We're here today. We're going to talk about the Veterans Day program that is on November the 11th at 11 a.m.
Right.
at the courthouse. David Kaplan,
Adjutant.
You're the adjutant, and Rick Kinsey. Rick Kinsey, he's the commandant. So they're going to talk to us today about what's happening on Thursday.
So every year, typically the American Legion leads a ceremony on Veterans Day, combined with a celebration of veterans as well, obviously. Typically it starts at roughly 11 o'clock, specifically 11/11, which is when Armistice Day was first recognized right after World War I. In 1954, that changed under the Eisenhower administration to Veterans Day to recognize all veterans for service in all wars, and that's why we now know it as Veterans Day. This year's celebration will be at the courthouse again because it's out in the public, and we can invite not only the local veterans but also the public as well. And we'll have the VFW Post 1860 joining us, the Elks will be joining us, and we're also going to have music before the ceremony kicks off, played by the bands from the Randolph-Macon Academy, Warren County High School, and Skyline High School will be out there supporting us. And we expect to have an honor guard, but I'm still lining that currently at the moment.
We'll have one.
Right.
We'll have one.
No, I'm confident we will too.
You hear that? We'll have one. So I noticed the last time the bands played there, it's been probably a couple years since when we had the last outdoor Veterans Day ceremony. When was it? Was it last year? We didn't have one, did we?
No, last year's ceremony was inside, and unfortunately I wasn't present, so Rick can talk about that more.
We had it inside there, and everything went real good, but I think they was calling for falling weather, and the band said they couldn't show up.
Right. I remember that. But when the bands did, I can remember when they played there in the street on Main Street, and I always called it a band competition. You know, they
Battle of the Bands.
Battle of the Bands.
Yeah.
But they were good. And, a lot of people come to the event, and the bands add something to it. All I know is when I come to it, I get chills. Just watching the ceremony and hearing the speaker speak and really talk about things, it's moving.
And it's going to be similar this year. The bands, prior to the event, will kind of have a pseudo battle of the bands, just like in previous years.
Sure.
And they're going to come together to play our national anthem.
Yes. Just
like we're all coming together to celebrate and have a ceremony on Veterans Day together. It's a union between the veteran community and the public. I mean, that's what Veterans Day is about, at least to my mind anyways.
It is. Because I know I try to publish as many stories as I can. I've interviewed some of our older veterans. I did one last couple years ago before he passed. Philip Funk was a 98-year-old veteran. And in fact, just the other day I interviewed Nellie Morris. She's 100 years old, and she's a veteran. She went in the Navy, and she just celebrated her 100th birthday. So
that's 100 years. That's a remarkable achievement in and of itself, just to live that long.
Well, she just broke her hip the second time, so she's a tough old bird. Let me tell you what.
Right.
little. She's also related to me in a way because my daughter married her son, her grandson or great grandson. So anyway, whatever it is, but she's still tough. She's tough. But you don't see people like that, in the military. I don't want to say that because I went in 68.
Right.
I spent about 12 years in. So, it's just a different time, and I recommend it all the time for people to go into the military. It's great. It's a great character building. It'll either build you up or tear you down, one or the other.
No, I would tend to agree. I mean, I'm from upstate New York in the Catskills Mountains region in New York originally, and when I finished high school, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just knew that I did not want to be homeless.
Right.
And since I knew I didn't want to go to college or university right away, I decided to join the United States Marine Corps, and that's how I ended up on active duty. And while I was in the Marine Corps, I served with the Presidential Guard Unit at Camp David during the President Bush years. And then when I rotated back to the Fleet Marine Forces, I ended up deploying to Fallujah, Iraq in 2006. I got out in the early part of 2007, and I kind of missed it, so I actually went back into the military in 2008 with the Army National Guard in Washington, D.C. Did switch MOSs. I went from being infantry in the Marine Corps to being military police with the National Guard, and then that unit, I ended up deploying with them in 2012 to Kabul, Afghanistan.
Well, I think everyone in the Marine Corps is in the infantry.
That's the old mantra. Yeah, every Marine's a rifleman, and
I can remember my brother-in-law was in the Marine. He was a radar technician with the Vietnam. Never worked on radar. Carried a rifle the whole time.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. They will train every Marine with. Back when I went to recruit training in Parris Island, it was an M16, but these days all the Marines are carrying M4s now.
Right. How about you, Rick?
Well, I was drafted in 1969. 2 years in the Army, or about 2 years, and I wound up in Vietnam there as ground surveillance radar, but I had taken infantry AIT, and while we was out there at Fort Hood, they pulled me out and sent me to get this ground surveillance radar behind it.
Right.
And when I came back from Arizona, I was on orders for Vietnam.
Yeah.
So when I got over there, it was kind of like you're saying, just went to the field. And
Yeah. Well, I volunteered for Vietnam, but they sent me to Greenland.
That's interesting because the way that I ended up in Iraq was I had just got done with my tour of duty at Camp David, and I was with a unit known as 1st Battalion, 9th Marines, which some of the Vietnam vets would actually know as the Walking Dead because of how many service members and how many Marines were lost out of that unit during the Vietnam War. At the time, the Marine Corps was trying to reactivate that as a battalion, but they didn't have enough personnel to send over as a battalion. And 2nd Reconnaissance Battalion was the next battalion out the door from Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. They came to the rifle range that we were shooting at in the month of January in 2006, and they extra volunteers. And a buddy of mine had just got back from a deployment with 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marine Regiment, and he raised his hand. And even though I hadn't seen my friend in 3 years since we had gone to recruit training together in Parris Island, because he raised his hand, I raised my hand and said, I'm going with him. And that simplified way of thinking is exactly how I ended up in Iraq.
Yeah.
Just volunteering without a care in the world, to be honest.
Sure. Even when I was in the military, I like I said, spent 12 years in, but only really worked 1 year in my career field. And I volunteered for, there's a book, 6 inches thick of special assignments, and I volunteered for and it's amazing. There's all sorts of cool jobs in the military. If you I tell people, volunteer for everything, no matter what they tell you. They always say, don't volunteer.
Right.
Man, you might get 1 or 2 crummy jobs, but trust me, the sergeant looks, after you do a good job and volunteer, he starts giving you the good jobs,
That's truly, that's definitely true these days in modern times.
Sure.
You're classified under one thing, but
Sure.
once the leadership team finds out what you're truly capable of,
they'll move you around.
They'll move you around to wherever the best fit is, or wherever you can be most efficient.
Well, that's what we're going to do on Thursday. We're going to celebrate all our veterans,
Right.
and the ones that are here and the ones that are gone, and the ones that are missing. And we want to remember that, all the complaints that we do in our country is still the greatest place on earth.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's that way because of our veterans. And I think we want to remember that, going from way back over 200 years.
Right.
We have veterans. And we've done some work with the Sons of the American Revolution here. We do a lot of their stories and things. And, they're out recognizing grave markings of patriots from the Revolution. And they're patriots and they're veterans. And I guess that's how we look at them. So we remember, we don't think about that. We're thinking about World War I or II or something.
Right.
But veterans go back a long way.
No, they really do. And that is one of the missions of both the American Legion and the VFW, is to try to locate our prisoners of war or those who are missing in action. Advocate in Congress for additional funding or additional personnel resources to try to bring literally everybody home that was lost, because until that last man is home for good, our mission's not complete.
Right, right. What they say, there's no man left behind.
And no man left behind.
And you know, they mean it. I think veterans believe that. We all do.
Right.
To do that. And I appreciate you taking the effort to continue these ceremonies that we have. I think it's easy to be forgotten. And it's good to see our country come behind our new veterans that we have from Iraq and Afghanistan compared to when we were coming back from Vietnam. We weren't quite treated as nice as they are today. So, but I see people now coming back and recognizing Vietnam veterans, Korean veterans, as a lot, you know, and thanking them for their service. So I think our sentiment has changed in our country, and it's a good. I think it's a good thing.
It has. As a younger veteran, I kind of look at it almost in a sense of passing the torch. You know, like the older generation of veterans made it so it was easier for me to do my time and do my service the way that I did it. But that being said, you know, there's still things that could be improved, and that's also part of what the American Legion and the VFW do as well, is try to make it better for the future. Right. And, you know, you can kind of see that here with the compare and contrast between my commander and myself. I mean, he's at least 30 years older than I am.
He's older than you are.
He's about 30 years older.
You got hair up there,
than
Rick?
That's not funny.
So, but, you know, despite the generational gap, you know, I can look at him like he's a brother.
Sure.
And the military is just all one big interconnected family at the end of the day.
The camaraderie. I mean, you know, especially in the Marine Corps, you know how they are. I mean, once a Marine, always a Marine. And, you know, I know Colonel Hammock comes in here, although if you know Bill Hammock, and he, you know, him and John Lundberg, he was a colonel too. You know, he was in the Army, but you know, there's that bond between them. You know,
so NASCAR calls it co-opetition. It's the same in the military with inter-service rivalries. You know, when it's a trash talk fest between brothers and sisters, but at the end of the
anyone
day,
else talk trash about them.
Exactly, but at the end of the day, we're all there to get the same thing done, and that's to protect the ideals of American freedom and just uphold and defend the Constitution.
Well, I appreciate it. I know you have taken what you learned in the military and went on and got the education, moved on. It's a great service, and really any young person that wants to do something for their country and do something for themselves, and I suggest you call your recruiter and pick a branch of the service. It's funny, they always go in the Navy when they live in inland. You know, they don't. I just say that, but it's true. You know, it seems like more people from the Navy are from Kansas than from, you know, New Jersey or something. I don't know. Maybe that's just I notice it more. But seriously, if you're a young person and you really are, you know, in high school age, getting out of high school and kind of wondering, lost, talk to your recruiter, because it's something that you can remember. It'll help you.
Don't just talk to your recruiter, though. Talk to the veterans in your community, friends and family, because the recruiters are there to get you in. And I'm not going to say that they're going to lie, but sometimes they do embellish a little bit. They embellish a little bit. But the local veterans that you know, they'll tell it like it is.
Yeah.
You know, case in point, I was sitting in my friend's office who's a recruiter down in D.C. I recently got out of the National Guard back in April, but I'm planning on going back in within the next week or two, actually. And he had some new recruits in his office that were brand new to the military. And as soon as he walked out of the office, I gave him a little bit of education on my own personal experiences and shared some laughs with him as well.
Yeah. But it's true. It will make a person, give you character, and give you a career.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's great. And, you know, pay's not bad either now. Wasn't great when I was in, was it?
No, it wasn't. That was another reason to get out.
But that, you know what, that's one thing that's common to pretty much anybody that works for a living, so to speak. They're going to always complain that they're never paid enough.
You know what's so funny about that? I always had money in my pocket. You know, I made $112 a month when I went in.
You will never go hungry.
I always had money in my pocket.
You'll never go hungry. That's one thing for sure.
That's true.
That was the part I remember. Place to sleep.
Place to sleep, and you'll never go hungry. Not a doubt in my mind.
Well, gentlemen, I really do appreciate it, and we will see you on Thursday. I want to remind people that's Thursday at the courthouse on Main Street in downtown Front Royal. Starts at 11 o'clock is the service, but get there a little early, about 10:15, 10:30, and listen to the three school bands. They'll be playing a lot of patriotic music and some military things, and it's just something that you will enjoy that you don't hear every day, and it's just something that's it's very moving, and it's worth the time to stand out there. It might be a little chilly, but you know what? It's well worth it. You'll get warmed up by the music and by and just the good feelings you'll have, and it's just something. It's hard to put into words what it is, but
It's hard
great.
because if you're not moved when you hear the national anthem, you probably don't understand what it's really about. The national anthem is not just for the veterans, it's for everybody.
Sure.
Everybody's got their own internal battles, and this country could use a lot of improvement. We all know that. But it's the march to continue on. So when you hear that anthem, you should be moved to do something to do better for yourself or better for your community.
It is. Look at the people that are trying to get in here. I mean, think about it. I mean, you don't see people leaving.
No, not at all.
So it's great. Again, thank you so much, and we will see you on Thursday.
Sounds
All right?
good.
Thank
Okay.
you.